What's your favorite paradox? If you have your grandfather's axe replace the handle a year later, then replace the blade. It's still your grandfather's axe. This is a simplified version of the ship of Theseus paradox. If you replace each board, one board at a time, over many years, is it still the same ship? Now what if you had saved all of those old boards as you replaced them, then reassembled them? Coming into this thread to write my favorite paradox and finding additional paradoxes I hadn't heard, thus my original favorite paradox is no longer my favorite paradox. Actually, there are two kinds of people in this world. Those who believe there are two kinds of people in this world, and those who are smart enough to know better. Tom Robbins. I don't like that place. No one goes there anymore because it's always too crowded. No one drives in New York. The traffic is too bad. When I was in art class, we had an assignment to paint a paradox or oxymoron. I didn't paint anything, handed in a blank canvas titled Completed Assignment and got an A. Go back in time, kill baby Hitler, kill baby Hitler, stop World War II, stop World War II, no World War II, no World War II, no need to go back in time, don't go back in time, no one kills Hitler. No one kills Hitler. World War II happens. World War II happens. Want to stop World War II. Want to stop World War II. Go back in time. Repeat cycle. The Maya paradox. Our illusions are not real, yet it's real that illusion itself exists. If time travel was invented in the future, we would have it now. I think according to string theory, you would be able to travel to the past, but not in our own timeline. It would be in separate, parallel universe. The following statement is true. This statement above is false. It bends my mind trying to understand this. Paradoxes aren't meant to have an answer, otherwise they wouldn't be paradoxes. The surprise hanging. A prisoner was sentenced to death by hanging, but as an additional punishment he was told he'd be hung sometime in the next week, but he'd not be told until the morning of. He reasons that it can be Friday, because that's the last possible day, and so it wouldn't be a surprise, which means it also can be Thursday, because it can be Friday, and so if he is alive by Thursday, then he needs to hang that day. Apply same reasoning to the other days of the week. He died Wednesday, caught by surprise. I like this one too. My solution is that prisoner himself. By his logic, he wouldn't get hanged, but by concluding he wouldn't get hanged, he made it so he'd be surprised on any day, including Friday. Pilots can get out of combat duty if they're psychologically unfit, but anyone who tries to get out of combat duty proves he's sane. That's a Catch-22. Excellent book for anyone who hasn't read it. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. Every time you gain a greater understanding about something, it creates even more questions than it answers. As our circle of knowledge expands, so does the circumference of darkness surrounding it. Albert Einstein. You need job experience to get a job, but to have the experience you must get a job. I feel like this is how unpaid internships became so popular. You want a job in this field, but we won't give you one unless you have experience. So do this work for free, then maybe we'll consider paying you. Yeah, and to add insult to injury, it seems that a degree or some sort of certification that you have the knowledge for this job is ignored in the name of experience. If God can do anything, can he heat up a bowl of ramen so hot that even he can eat it? There is something similar. The God's rock paradox. Can God create a rock so heavy that he can no longer carry it? The poison well paradox. A town is worried that their well is poisoned by chemical X, so they hire 3 scientists to test it. They ask each scientist 2 questions. Is chemical X above level Y in our water? And if chemical X is above level Y, should we stop using our water supply? The answers were as follows. Scientist 1 answered yes to both questions. Scientist 2 answered yes to the first and no to the second. Scientist 3 answered no to the first and yes to the second. The paradox. If you take each scientist's final conclusion, you'll have a majority of scientists saying that you don't need to close the well. But if you combine all the scientists' responses to individual questions, you'll have a majority of responses telling you to close the well. Statistical paradoxes are cool. For example, Simpson's paradox, where a statistical trend is reversed when the population is partitioned into groups. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was supported by 61% of Democrats and 80% of Republicans. However, both Southern and Northern Democrats were more likely to support the act than their Republican colleagues. Median wages in the US rose by 1% between 2000 and 2013, yet wages of every educational subgroup, school dropouts, school graduates, college graduates, and higher degrees, fell during the same period. The overall survival rates for third-class passengers of the Titanic were higher than those for the crew, yet those for both men and women were lower. The batting averages of baseball player David Justice were higher than those of Derek Jeter in both 1995 and 1996, but not in the 2 years combined. Buridan's Bridge. Due to the fact there is an obvious answer, for those unfamiliar, it goes as such. Socrates wants to cross a river and comes to a bridge guarded by Plato. The two speak as follows. Plato: Socrates, if in the first proposition which you utter, you speak the truth, I will permit you to cross. But surely, if you speak falsely, I shall throw you into the water. Socrates: you will throw me into the water. Assuming it's a bridge near water and not that high, I would throw him into the water, fish him out, then let him pass. He'd be shivering on the way and I would say as he passes, that's what you get for being a smartass. The paradox of being a parent. The days and nights are long and hard, yet the years fly by. Yes, 100%. I hate how cliché it is, but it's just so true. Each day feels like 749,574 hours, especially right now when everyone is home all the time. But it truly feels like my oldest was just born, and it blows my mind that it was actually 13 years ago. I've heard of one where some idiot went back in the past and accidentally got his grandpa killed. He eventually had to do the nasty in the pasty with his grandma to save his own life. The Titanic sunk because of the weight of all the time travelers who came back to stop the Titanic from sinking. So basically we're talking Terminator time travel rules. So right is paradox. When exactly does heap of a million grains of sand turn into a non-heap when you take away grains of sand one at a time? About 7? Holy shit, you just solved philosophy. Pinocchio's nose paradox. If Pinocchio says the phrase, my nose will grow, it creates a paradox. This is because if it grows, then he's telling the truth. But since it only grows when he's lying, it shouldn't grow. But if it doesn't grow, then he lied. So it should grow, which means he's telling the truth. But if... Edit. Lots of people have pointed out that this may not be a paradox. I should say I made a slight mistake and it works better when he says, my nose will grow now. So he's talking about the immediate present and not a future time, which breaks the paradox. I had to Google that and I found it's representative of the liar paradox. Like if you were to say, I'm lying. If you are lying then, you told the truth, which means you just lied. That being said, I'm sure there's still arguments against this, but it's still fun to try and wrap your head around if you are not getting too technical. I think it depends on what Pinocchio himself thinks will happen. Yeah, this is the same way he can use his nose to predict the weather, by suggesting weather until it doesn't grow, or determine anything else he doesn't know. It doesn't grow when he says something untrue, it grows when he consciously lies. Thanks a lot for watching and don't forget to watch other videos.